Space Shuttle program and 1984 STS. Pretty much, yeah, you see in my search engine, STS 1984. And there is an anomaly in the video, but we're going to just play it a little bit just because I want you to feel how the Space Shuttle program looks in 1984. So let's get straight into it. Let me turn off this music. Okay, here we go. Watch these weirdos.
8.5 minutes later, we were in orbit. I asked if I could open my eyes yet, and this is what one sees when you do open your eyes. It's a beautiful, beautiful sight. The crew members, Rick, looking somewhat relieved that the launch went so well.
Let's just stop right here. What is this light coming from? Is that the sun? Because when I watch ISS footage, I never see the sun. I never see harsh light coming in. Like, I don't see, I just see a dark room with, jargon on the sides of the roof.
Trusty pilot Dave Walker. Unidentified missions.
Look at this harsh light. So that's the sunlight. So sun comes... Okay.
Specialist. Anna Fisher.
That's spray paint hair.
And straight from the college campus, Dale Gardner.
Who's the supposed commander?
We are. That is just a quick
All right,
scene.
here we go, guys. Here is where we found a problem. And it's right here. And it's at the end of this clip. Is you're going to see the wire that's pulling this model satellite out of a model space shuttle. And this stuff, this is photography stuff. I know what this stuff is. This I have it. I can show it to you. This crinkle stuff, it's for like, you'd put it on a it's for glamour shots. Okay, so it makes perfect sense.
Life in orbit. Our first task, of course, was to deploy Telesat. It was a nighttime deploy, and so this is a TV picture, nighttime TV picture of the deploy. It looks more or less like in the day scenes of life in orbit. It was a nighttime deploy, and so this is a TV picture, nighttime TV picture of the deploy. It looks more or less like in the day. You just can't see it too well. Went smoothly, and really not much else to say about that. We had another deploy the next day, and Dale, why don't you describe that?
Flight day 3, we deployed the Syncom satellite called LESAT sometimes, similar to what you saw this last spring on a 41D. It's a large satellite, as you can see, comes out in that Frisbee fashion that we've talked about before. It's about 14 feet in diameter and weighs 13,000 pounds. And it really looked large to us as it came out of the payload bay. Very slowly also, as you can see, only just a little over a foot per second departure from the bay. The one nice aspect about the Syncom deploy is that we punch it out down towards the Earth in the attitude.
Sorry, 1080.
So as it leaves the bay, and you can see here, we have a beautiful view of the Earth down below as the satellite departs.
This is a few scenes of some of the things we do on orbit that don't generally get shown.
That's a script.
This is a fairly mundane operation, but very important one, called the on-orbit flight control system checkout, which Rick and I did.
So I'd love to see the gyroscope up close and see what it's doing in space. Like, I'd like to see all the instruments, please.
Gives you a chance to see what the flight deck looks like a little bit on orbit, rather like a large airliner. The CRTs there can be seen blinking, and from there we're going to show you a little bit of the mid-deck. This actually was taken by Dr. Allen with Captain Houck pushing him along as he held our movie camera in front of him, going down into the mid-deck, and you can see the portable foot restraints that we attached to enable us to stay put, our treadmill that we use for exercise,
The Colbert.
and some of the lockers. That particular one that's open contains in-flight maintenance equipment, which Eagle Electronics used. And over on the starboard bulkhead of the mid-deck, you can see the sleep accommodations, which I think I'll let Dr. Fisher discuss a little bit about the rest of the middeck area?
Well, in this particular sequence, we're showing how we prepare a meal, and we divided these tasks up.
That's all they do, is show us how to eat. They play with their food like little children. That's all they do. That's all they've ever done. That's all they will ever do.
Among all the crew members, Dale usually wound up doing breakfast because nobody was quick enough for him. Making meals is a fairly easy task on orbit. All you had to do is essentially like very good. Essentially like backpacking. You essentially add water to the food, and it was
Gotta get that
very good.
sponsor.
I'll let Rick describe what we're doing here.
Well, at the risk of endorsing a product, that's an interesting physical demonstration on orbit of the fact that things really are weightless.
That's how the crew was rewarded when we did something.
That's your proof.
Rick would release another handful.
Since Anna did more things right than anybody, she got most of them.
Weirdos.
You can see it is a rather dreamlike world, both awake and sleeping. This is Dave in the upper bunk after the first EVA.
Saying, oh no, we have to do another one?
Yeah.
Part of our time on orbit is spent doing filter cleaning. What you see Dale and Dave doing here is
Filter
removing some
cleaning.
panels so that we can get to access to the filters.
Where are the new
again,
filters?
It's much like life here on Earth. You got to things you got to do. You got to eat. You got to be able to clean all of your equipment. This actually took several hours. We were doing this on the day.
Where do they put the trash? That's what I want to know. Where do the old filters go? Where does all the old food wrappers go? Where does all the trash go? Where do the used tampons go? Please tell me. Do you send the used tampon through the little suction nozzle and then it goes into like the drinking machine? Like, what's going on here? Where does the trash go? How do they get the trash out? Now, when I deployed, the only way we got rid of trash was by burning it. So, are they just releasing it into space? Inform us,
In between EVAs.
please.
Then once those panels were removed, we were able to get access to the filters, and here I am cleaning again. I thought I was going to escape that for a couple of weeks, but for a week or so. But and this is, as I said, a very important part of our
Where do they dump the trash from that vacuum?
work on orbit to keep things clean. You can see it wasn't just me who did that up on the flight deck. Dave's a clean ship is a happy ship.
Why in the ISS do I never see this type of lighting? Why is that lighting never there? Is it because they're closer to the sun? Yes, okay.
Dave on orbit described Dr. Allen as large in personality but diminutive in stature. Whenever his personality got a little bit too large, we would stuff him away in a
We're just going to stop right here. Okay, listen, guys. This is... Now I'm talking to you space boys out here, please. This is your highlights. Okay, this is what, this is what your program is doing, and these are the highlights. This is what they did up in space. So let's just continue to
for a
play.
few hours. And then when
Why
the
not
task
show
needed to be
us
done,
some
we'd lie down
results
to
of
go
an
out, go down and get
experiment?
him out.
Something... Why do I get a comedian show? What is funny about this?
This was a somewhat unpleasant task for me, but Joe seemed to like the freedom at times.
This is what the tax dollars go to. Hold
hard part
on.
was-
This is what you guys risked your life for, was to play games.
Him back in there again later once we got him.
Flight days 5 and 7, of course, the EVA days. This is the airlock. You can see the two suits up by my left and right shoulder. The main suits down by my right leg is a spare suit that we carried. When it was determined the two prime suits were going to operate properly, we took that spare suit out and didn't use it. Up on the flight deck, the folks were preparing for the rendezvous.
Yeah, the day started fairly early for Rick and myself. About an hour and a half into our post-sleep activities, we got involved in a sequence of burns that were going to require to bring us in proximity with the satellite. As you can see here, we were always checking and double checking each other, making sure that every input we put in was correct. This is a sequence through the COAS, our device for that Rick used to look overhead to sight on the satellite. And this, as you can see the satellite at a distance of about, I guess we were 50 miles here. It looked like a star as you looked up. And I'll hand it over to Rick now to talk about the final parts of the rendezvous.
Here we are probably about 300 feet now, maybe down to about 50 feet away from the satellite. We're firing lots of jets on board to slow us down to rendezvous with the satellite, putting it just about 35 feet.
Try to give you a flavor for what it...
And I essentially had just a lot of fun on Flight Day 7.
This dude's just flying out in the middle of space. No rope, no tether, nothing to, reel him back in if failure of his jets or whatever. Because, they do this all the time, I guess. This is a safe thing.
Knowing that it all worked, took a big look
You got to buy into this, NASA. This is your... Look at this. Look at this.
off my mind. Because I flew out a little bit differently than Joe had. You might remember Joe me.
Still turning at a very, very regular, which was equally easy. You grab the grapple fixture.
Man, every time I see that light,
and
it just...
Such that I could see the end effector, the grapple target, and it went very well, very smoothly.
I don't know. I don't remember seeing sunlight like this.
From a MMU crewman's point of view, it's interesting to see the large arm coming up.
I also feel like if you watch this bag over here, it just doesn't look like it's floating in water. I'm not saying they're in space. I'm just saying that...
to suddenly grasp the satellite. This a shot of Dale working on the satellite, the top end. In fact, he just removed the Omni antenna with some very fancy space equipment known as pruning shears.
That was about the last nominal portion of that first EVA. Here we see where we first learned as a group that the common bracket clamped. And it's appropriate to add here that we had enough pre-planned.
Directed me
this
to,
could all literally be models.
While Dale worked on it. The bulkhead, you see the two wind pass.
And both of the EVA crewmen.
I don't know.
We relied totally on directions from Dave.
For me to put the satellite...
Runway 15 at the Kennedy down. You can see how the smoke...
Fisher.
Anyway, guys, I think the moral of the story
went smoothly, and
is
really
if
not
you
much else to say
subscribe
about that. We had
to
another
Jeff
deploy
Whitney,
the next day,
you're
and
going to get a
Dale
lot of
and you
weirdo
just started
videos
that.
in your
Flight Day 3,
recommendation.
we deployed the Syncom satellite
Sorry.
called LESAT sometimes, similar to what you saw this last spring on 41D. It's a large satellite, as you can see, comes out in the Frisbee fashion that we've talked about before. It's about 14 feet in diameter and weighs 13,000 pounds. And it really looked large
guys.
to us as it came out of the payload bay. Very slowly.
I'll let you
also,
guys go. I'll show you that last footage real quick. Where is that? With the rope. This stuff gets me too heated, guys.
The
Here we go.
deploy looks more or less like...
Look at that!
You just can't...
What is that?
It was a nighttime deploy, and so this is a TV picture, nighttime TV picture of the deploy. It looks more or less like in the day. You just can't see it too well.
Alright guys, I will continue to be looking at space shuttle footage and fakery.